Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Let's get right into this, shall we? Okay. So, it has been, 48 hours since I last did a live stream, so we got a lot of catching up to today. So, what a better way to do it than to record a TradingView idea. Okay, looks like I need to refresh the page. Good on me. Let's do this. 3D Wave PM does absolute horrors to, TradingView. Shall we? Okay, we'll dive right into it. Good morning, folks. Welcome to today's daily Bitcoin update. Let's dive right into this and specifically what we need to focus on in the upcoming days, weeks, and even months. So let's just do a macro top-down analysis and work our way from the weekly to the hourly, okay? So starting from the weekly chart, our number one thing to look at is we have bounced twice from the weekly 200 moving average as predicted. If you want to check out these predictions, go ahead and check out my YouTube channel. December 17th is right here is where we actually called the bottom of the bear market. And so far we have bounced once, and now we're going for the second bounce, and then we will see the third bounce, which will allow this large overexpanded distribution to compress around price so it can shed its mass and restore the market to a state of potential energy, right? So after we bounce along through the side here, we're going to get a nice bit of compression, and once that potential energy is restored, well, then it won't take all that much force to actually push price into a bullish pattern again, right? So really, what we're just going to expect is a compressing range over the next year to allow all of this to shed its mass, okay? If we pop down to the daily chart, right, you'll notice by looking at our 3D Wave PM at the bottom there that our longest overexpanded period is the 250 period. So if we look up a 250 band, that is our current pivot for mean inversion, and it was what defined a trend for our previous downward move, okay? So let's think about this. If we have this new bit of downward net expansion, which caused this huge plume of mass to generate, right? The longest overexpanded period is going to define that continued expansion. So as long as we were below the bottom edge of this 250 distribution, or rather the 1.25 standard deviation of that distribution, we were defined in a state of expansion. And if we're defined in a state of expansion, well, that's the state of trend, right? And that's why it was a rather risky call to say that this right here was actually the bottom. So we did have this nice test right here on the weekly 200, secondary test, and then it's actually the re-entry of this pivot right here that actually truly defined the end of the bear market and the start of a period of accumulation, okay? I really do expect lateral trading for the remainder of the year, okay? Because now that we are inside the 1.25 standard deviation of the 250 band, that band will have the opportunity to sufficiently compress, right? And the tighter this band gets, right, the more this volatility overhead will evaporate. And as soon as all that mass is shed, well then, just a little tiny bit of force to the upside will be enough to actually spark the next bull run, right? We can't just immediately start an upward trend at this very moment because it would require an unrealistic amount of force to move an unrealistic amount of mass. So the compression of this distribution, it's like you're rolling a snowball up the hill, right? And you're trying to get that snowball somewhere. However, the more you roll it, the heavier it gets. So what's your best solution? Either get more people to push it with you, which is exactly what we did during Bitcoin's last bull run, right? Where we just kept on recruiting more and more and more people to push the snowball, which caused, well, that parabolic move, right? Since we did have, an unrealistic mass all the way down here, right? But we recruited more people to push the snowball with us. So more people to push means more force, which means more generation of mass, and so on and so forth. And then eventually, as soon as we start crossing the relative mean reversion pivots, they all topple down like dominoes, right? Where if we re-enter the 50 band, we revert to the 50 mean. and we enter the 200 band, we revert to the 200 mean. And we can do this on the weekly chart as well, right? If we enter the weekly 200 band, we revert to the weekly 200 mean, and so on. So what's important to note about this is we have completed enough mean reversions to actually just allow for the compression of price and the lateral mean reversion of those lower or those higher periods to actually allow for lateral compression, right? Because we're finding support on the same institutional benchmark as last time. So really, we're seeing the same thing happening here as we're seeing here, where we had this huge plume of mass generated, and then each relative mean reversion is toppling upward one by one, which results in a period of consolidation, right? Just as this was a period of consolidation to allow for the beginning of a new trend, this is now a period of consolidation to allow for the beginning of new upward trend, right? So this is a very bullish scenario, and really you should keep that bullish scenario until the weekly 200 moving average is broken, right? We don't need to talk about alternative scenarios because the chances of the weekly 200 breaking are slim to none, especially now that we're finally in a state of compression, right? Because it is extremely difficult to begin pushing that snowball again while you're leaving it out in the sun, right? Think about this. As it's melting, that snowball freezes to the ground, okay? So you're kind of stuck until it finally sheds enough mass to where you can break it out of the ice again, okay? So we are actually stuck in the 250 band now until the 250 period wave PM reaches below the 0.7 value, okay? So this value right here, okay? Right, until this little sliver of mass, the 275 period, until that turns green, price will not leave the 250 band. And I have a very interesting explanation for this as well. If you look at the previous run-up for the most recent expansion of Bitcoin, right, our longest overexpanded period was 275, okay? And if you wait for the mass to load down there, you'll be able to see it. I'll point it out when it happens, right? So once we re-enter the 275 band when it's overexpanded, we do not leave the 275 band until, just waiting on 3D wave PM now, just give it a second. Thank you for your patience. Imagine having to deal with this every time you try to look at a chart, right? It can be quite frustrating to wait for 3D wave PM. Come on, buddy. There we go. Okay, so you're going to like this, right? The longest overexpanded period is 275. The absolute exact moment where the 275 period turns green, right here, right? As soon as the 275 period turns from yellow to green, guess what happens? Price breaks out of that band and begins new trend. Why? Because it has sufficiently shed enough mass to allow for the beginning of new trend. You can't make this up, people. So the same thing's going to happen on the daily, where we have the 250 band overexpanded, right? And price will not leave the 250 band until the 250 period is reading below the 0.7 value, okay? So we are defined by this compressing band. And you know what's so great about that? It's because there is very little downside in the band. Like, look at this. But look at how much upside there is in the band, right? If you just buy every time we touch the bottom edge of this 250 band, you're going to do very well for yourself over this next coming year, okay? Because this band right here is defining our pivot point for expansion. And because it would require an unrealistic amount of force to continue expansion, you can very safely bet that it won't leave the band, right? Just as we saw in the 1 hour chart, right? These rules apply on any time frame for any distribution. So with this in mind, well, we are in a beautiful state of compression, and I'm quite confident we're in the end of the bear market, right? I did have a quick request. What was it? This one? Yeah, do you have any kind of prediction or pattern to try to know when an altcoin market could make some sort of bull run? I've been watching your signals pretty tightly and bought mid-December. I only got 1 minute left here, so I'm going to be fast about this. Yes. you want to look for positively weighted mean period volatility, okay? In other words, you want blue band to be weighted on top of the purple band, right? That is going to signify a bull run. And we're just going to pull ourselves back to our previous crash pattern. Okay. Right? So we can have positively weighted mean period volatility, like here, right? That signifies positive trend. Consolidation is defined by neutral mean period volatility, where the blue band is inside the purple, and we trade laterally for the duration. When it is below, that is negatively weighted mean period volatility, which results in downward trend. And then finally, what you want to look for a bull run on the altcoins is positively weighted mean period volatility, where the 50 band gets weighted above the 200. That check out. Okay, wow, we did the full 10 minutes today. It was a good chart, guys. Good work. How are y'all doing today? Wow, no comments yet. Guys, give me some charts to look at, please. I'm going to go get a glass of water while you guys take the moment to actually look at that. I'm satisfied with that. Okay, BRB. Very thirsty. Hello. Can I do Zill? Okay. Yes, I can. Zill wasn't on my full Binance watch list until like 2 days ago, and I don't know how I missed out on that. Okay. This is going to be a boring chart. I just see lots of compression. Let's dive into it. Okay. I mean, we might have crossed a mean reversion pivot here, except it's almost evaporated. I'm looking at the 180 period, though. Let's go ahead and give it a check. We are technically in a bullish scenario. All right, I said 180. Yeah, it's fine. 200 will do. Okay. So, yeah, for this chart, you just want to look for an 18 period CCI roll up. So wait for a dip down, scoop up. That's going to be your long entry. And your implied target is this mean right here. Okay, we cannot define if it will be trending mean reversion or lateral mean reversion. And do note that because of the slope of the bottom edge of the 200 band, that lateral mean reversion might actually play out like this, right? Because we are contained by the band. So it is possible we're just going to trickle down along the bottom here like so. And that's a completely reasonable scenario. So really the risk management isn't the best here. You're going to have to attempt multiple entries on multiple CCI rollups, but eventually, given if it does hit within the next 4 times, right, you will be able to catch that mean reversion. And let's actually define what would make that profitable for us. Right, we would need to shoot for about a 2% downside and 15% upside. That's decent. That would give you at least 4 or 5 tries to try out that upward expansion. Granted, that's going to require a lot of discipline and patience. So, sure, you can capture this on the CCI rollups, but just be aware. You are going to stop out a few times, unless you get lucky, right? Just prepare to lose and scoop up the trade, just re-enter as soon as you get the next entry signal. That's how you play this kind of chart, right? Where you have a bullish condition, but the bullish condition does not imply good entry, right? Because of this bottom edge of that slope there. So those CCI roll-ups are going to be a little bit tricky for us here, okay? Of course, the other scenario is we get a CCI roll-up and it goes straight to the mean. And if you want to bet on that, that's entirely your prerogative. Okay? It is not my risk profile. I've actually a lot of success trading retracement values on over expansions. Guys, Overexpansion retracement value trading is, my God, like the best thing that has ever happened to me. All right. I did it on BAT recently. Let's go ahead and look at the BAT call. Right. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little golden nugget here, okay? It is just too clean, right? Okay, look at this. Look at this stop loss. We have a 1.3% downside and an 8% upside. Like, okay. Like, your profit ratio is... Oh, why am I putting so much effort into that? Like 6 to 1, right? So you have a 6 to 1 profit ratio. Okay, you should only expect like, what, a 30% chance for that to hit, maybe 20. And it goes straight to the take profit target in the same day. Like, retracement value trading on this is insane. Like, our longest overexpanded period here is 500. So if you change this to a 500 band, it's going to define the pivot for trend or mean reversion. Okay, and look at how insane this is. Like, we have a strong downtrend here, and we can perfectly catch the knife. Like, look at how well respected that is. It's just obscene. I can't make this shit up. I'm actually in Bitcoin right now. I'm very happy with myself. Might pull a trailing stop pretty soon here. I mean... No, I don't want to take profit too soon. I'm going to be honest. I'm just going to move my stop loss up to maybe 2%, and maybe just shoot for the 12 to 20%. Okay. This was called. You guys should be in this. Okay. Strongly recommend staying in this trade if you are already in. If you're not in, well, don't get in because you no longer have good risk management. XLM. Yeah, that's a call right now as well. Or is it? I don't think it is. It's not. Yeah, we actually crossed the mean inversion pivot. I'm just waiting for a CCI roll up. So yeah, it's bullish. You just don't have good entry yet. Okay. Am I lagging pretty bad? I am. Yeah, I'm dropping some frames. Oh well. Can I look at XAU USD? Sure. You're saying what the hindsight entry would it be? I usually don't think like that. Okay, I guess you're just talking about that nice little uptrend there. Okay. Oh, 100 period is actually still overexpanded. Let's check the 1 hour chart. See if you can check anything for this lateral range here. Yeah, there was some nice net expansion right at this point. But it was a pretty weak signal. We are going to get some nice mean inversion pivots here, though. I'll admit that. They're still a little far away, though, so I don't really have much of an opinion on this chart at this moment, okay? And gold doesn't behave as well as I want it to. Okay. Yeah, it just looks like we're getting repeated flag, fake out, trend, flag, fake out, trend. So honestly, this looks a lot more manipulated than I would say even crypto looks. But what do I know? Oof. Cappy says, hi man, how do you set your sell orders? Do you use FIB or some other oscillator? I'm going to be real honest with you guys. The only reason I put static take profit targets in my trade calls is because you want them. You should never use Fibonacci or an oscillator to take profit. I'm going to say that right now. If I'm trading a compressing range, yes, I can accurately put take profit target. And if I'm expecting a mean reversion, well, I can put a great take profit target there as well, right? Like, it really just depends on what type of trade. If it's a trend trade, no. The take profit targets I give you are completely arbitrary. If they are a retracement trade like this, like that, right, where I have a defined compressing range, then I can very accurately say, okay, well, we're going to revert to at least the mean and at least the top edge of the band. And then quite accurately, well, we actually reject off of the top edge of the band because we're in a compressing range, right? So it really depends. It just depends if there's significant trend or if you're trading consolidation. Okay, if you're trading consolidation, yes, you are going to be able to take some very accurate take profit targets. If it's a trend where you have defined expansion, then you're kind of fucked as far as taking profit goes. At least setting a static target to take profit, right? So let me just point this out. Like I took profit on BNB here, right? Because we crossed the mean reversion pivot and then trend continued on without me, okay? And that just happens. That's life. Right, so if you're in a defined trend, taking profit is very difficult because you have very little to define the trend other than the longest over expanded period. And if you're just trading in the longest over expanded period, well then short-term take profit targets are going to be a bit risky. And then you just need to look for actual re-entry for those take profit targets. So there are short-term mean reversion pivots and long-term mean reversion pivots, okay? So for instance, if you go to this daily chart and we loaded up an adaptive MA, you would notice that for this relative expansion, mean reversion pivots have never been crossed, so trend as defined by the daily is constantly defined. However, if we look at the shorter time frames, we constantly cross short-term take profit points and tag the 1 point or the 3.2 standard deviation and such. So you can like do short-term take profits and then find trend re-entry. It just so happened that on BNB personally, that I had a short-term take profit and then trend continued on without me before I had a chance to re-enter, okay? Take a look at IOTA, okay? Anything else I need to look at? Yeah, I'll do IOTA, LRC, 1 second. This is a nice chart. I might be able to find the retracement value here. To my understanding, we're currently in a mean reversion. So we will see lateral trading and compression. The bare minimum I can do for you, or rather like the most I can do for you, sorry, is point out that our longest period is in fact 400. So we're going to the 400 mean. Okay. So I don't actually expect this to hit, but I'll draw it out for you anyway. Right, bouncing on the mean reversion pivot is reasonable, okay? So we're gonna do like a 4% downside. Holy shit, that's a fucking 30%. Wow. Hey, you know what? Not bad. Okay, so we ran over this band. It is implied we go down to this mean, right? So using the mean itself as the retracement value is a lot less reliable than using the edges of the band, okay? So like if you were to use this as a retracement value or this as a retracement value, it would be much more reliable than this. However, well, we're trading on this, aren't we? So if we want to do that, you're going to have to be really careful because chances are we just continue consolidating to the bottom edge of the band. Oh, I'm offline. God damn it. It says I'm... shoot. Oh, I'm still live. Okay. Yeah, I guess this is pretty bad. A lot of lag today. Okay. Well, I'm going to cut this short here pretty soon. I'm just going to look at the final charts. But anyway, yeah, this is a retracement value is good, and then this here is fine. Take a look at IOTA. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I would actually count this as a breakout as defined by my PM. Copy. Cappy says, what are your thoughts on the next cycle? Is there a way to predict tops in the cycle using Elliott waves or other tools, or is it a fool's errand? It is a fool's errand. Okay? I made a tweet about this a while back. You are much better off doing the following. I'll probably reduce the video quality next time around, but until now. Instead of attempting to predict long-term targets through black magic tools, it is much better for you to predict market condition and then entries into the market condition. Okay? That's what I recommend. Okay, I'm going to cut this live stream short. It has been a pleasure. I'll talk to you all later. Like this video. It does me a huge favor. Thanks, folk. I'll see you later.